Parker, and thank you for tuning in to this basically a tribute to those former Playboy models who were featured in the mag either as Playmates of the Year or just as models, such as Jane Mansfield and Linda Lovelace. As we know, a lot of them did make their mark in Hollywood, particularly Marilyn Monroe and Anna Nicole Smith on a smaller level. I mean, she was more or less obviously a reality star, but she also got some really large contracts starting out with Guess in the very beginning. Unfortunately, a lot of their endings were, all their endings were just very tragic in nature. We have sadly a couple who perished in car accidents. Of course, everyone is pretty familiar with Dorothy Stratton and the fact that she was murdered by her own husband, whose name shall go unmentioned. There seemed to be a lot of red, lights there, a lot of warning signs that the person who was in her life was spiraling out of control emotionally and psychologically. There was a lot of damage, but he didn't get the help that he needed so desperately. And unfortunately, he took Stratton away from this world far too soon. She was only 20 years old. I think, in comparison to the other ladies here that sadly lost their lives far too soon as well through either drug overdoses or car accidents and in just tragic manners, to be honest. I think hers is the saddest of all because her life ended at the hands of someone she trusted, someone that she loved, someone that she knew. And unfortunately, being as young as she was at the time, I really truly don't think that she could even see what was happening, that this guy was capable of committing such an atrocity and such a horrible way of ending a life. He, of course, everyone knows that he did commit suicide, so it was really more or less a homicide suicide situation. But the truth of the matter is, there's definitely a special place somewhere else for someone who would take the life of any innocent person, and there is no excuse for such behavior. I just wanted to pay tribute to these lives of these ladies who came to Hollywood with a dream. Basically may have had high expectations that maybe that their lives were going to be this wonderful fairy tale. And Jane Mansfield, Marilyn Monroe, I would say of all these ladies here, they got the closest of all because they obviously were mainstream A-listers for a time and graced the silver screen for some time as well. And have a lot of fans, particularly Monroe. I mean, even to this day, she's sort of like an icon for many. I mean, Mansfield is as well to a smaller extent, but both of these ladies truly did make their mark in Hollywood. That is no way that we can actually say that that isn't true. And of course, we know Monroe was the very first Playboy centerfold, but she was really more or less someone that Hugh Hefner used to launch his magazine. So she really didn't pose for him at that point. She had not posed for him directly, although she did in later years. She was at those were actually photographs from a shoot that she did because she was unfortunately having a really difficult time making her mark in Hollywood, starting out as a budding starlet. So she needed to make some money and decided that she would do some, girly calendar shots for a photographer. And Hefner just got that idea, and that's how Playboy was pretty much born. Now, some people like to think that Playboy magazine is kind of, exploits women. We have to understand that people enter these contracts and enter into these agreements with Playboy with full knowledge of what it entails. You do have a lot of women, obviously they're young. Some of these women may or may not have family support, and therefore this may be the only way that they can actually earn income. I mean, that's debatable. But at the same time, many do view being in Playboy and particularly being a playmate as actually achieving something in the entertainment industry. Therefore, is it a tragedy or is it just a matter of perception? It's just one of those things that actually raises thoughts and is kind of something that you would want to think about as far as being, a matter of opinion, or because it's really not a matter of fact. For some, Playboy is great. For others, it's just basically seen as a rag and a way of women's beauty being exploited. But for some, it's seen as a launching pad to bigger and better things. And in some cases, this does happen. I think it's more the exception. But Stratton, of course, was also, she did some films before she was sadly murdered, but she was on her way and often was compared to Marilyn Monroe. So there's definitely a chance that Stratton would have been just as successful in Hollywood as an actress as her predecessors, Mansfield and Monroe. But unfortunately, sadly, we'll never know. Just want to express our condolences to the families of these lovely ladies and hope that they are in a place far better than the one that we know here on this earth. Thank you so much for tuning in. And let's always remember that what one perceives to be true, another could perceive as false because his opinions, they're neither right nor wrong. Thank you for tuning in, and may you all have a really wonderful, productive life. And hopefully, tragedy will not be your end. Thank you for listening, and take care.